So here it is, the ESP8266 network rebooter. This 3D printed case is available on the GitHub, as is all the code. So you can see that we have a little socket here for power input, and then the power comes out, goes to our Wi-Fi router, and then I also tagged on the modem as well. This requires that you have enough amperage to drive both your router and your modem, which is why this power socket goes down into here, which is an empty printer shell because the case was free and a good size and inconspicuous. That has a big 12-volt power supply that powers actually all of this stuff. That's battery-backed, which is why it powers all of this stuff. It's actually battery-backed by a 12-volt battery, using a 12-volt solar system battery backing thing. So that way you don't have the inverter losses like you do with a real UPS. Anyways, this case, you have the notch here where the wires come out, and you can just pry it up. Sorry, the camera shot wasn't very good there, but you just pop the lid. The lid friction fits. I used glue on the print bed so it looks ugly on the underside. And here's the internals. So you have the ESP8266. You have a little buck converter which generates 5 volts, which is going to the voltage in on the ESP8266, which allows 5 volts in. Because the ESP8266 will step it down to 3 volts. Then I have a transistor, which allows me to use the 5 volts from this and the 3.3 volt logic of the ESP8266 to control this relay. And I have a buzzer as well. It's all mounted on a piece of perf board. So all of this is a fairly basic circuit. And then the code on the ESP8266, which we will look at in a moment, is just a simple Arduino sketch that can control the relay and the buzzer based on web commands. If it gets the off command, it will turn the relay off for 10 seconds and automatically turn it back on, because, you know, you can't give it the on command again when the network's down. And basically the reason I did this was my modem needs to be routinely restarted, and but the router itself is fine. Even though the router has a routine restart scheduling feature, it doesn't need it. Except I don't really know how routinely the modem needs to be restarted. It seems to be kind of random. And if I just restart the modem, that doesn't work, so I have to restart the router as well, and then I have to wait for them to come back up. Versus this just does it automatically, and I mean, I still have to wait for them to come back up, but I don't need to get down here and turn them both off and then back on again. So, I think it's a pretty good solution. And there's a server-side code as well, which runs on my server over there, but you could run it on a Raspberry Pi or whatever. That is what actually checks for the pings and sends the command to the ESP8266. So that's all. Just a quick little project video. Thanks for watching. Or not thanks for watching, because we'll look at the code soon, but I shot the code first. Okay, so now to the code. Bye. Okay. So this is my software for the ESP8266 Smart Network Rebooter. So this is just the little test web page where I could disable my network if I wanted to. I could re-enable my network if I actually couldn't, because I can't communicate over the network, but I can re-enable the relay. I know it calls it LED, we'll talk about that later. And I can also enable and disable the buzzer, because this has buzzer functionality where it can alert you if your network is having issues. The code's all on GitHub. I'll link to the GitHub if you want to look at it more, but basically there's two parts of the code. There's the Arduino, which is all here, and this was pulled from circuitsforyou.com and fairly heavily modified, but their example turns on and off an LED, which is why it says LED, because I didn't bother to change the name because I was lazy. But you know what? It's actually relatively well organized code. Then there's the server-side script. So
Launch check actually apparently is having issues, despite the fact that I tested it extensively originally. So I'm not using that. I'm using a cut down version called No Buzzer, which is a much simpler version that all it does is check if it's on or off. I mean, not on or off. Check if the network's up or down, and if the network's down, it checks that by pinging Google. And if the network's down, then it resets the network, and you have to plug in your IP address. Launch check has the ability to enable the buzzer, and it also has the ability to email you. And it also has the ability to not get into a reboot loop. It will try to reboot the network twice, and then it will stop bothering, and just enable the buzzer, assuming it can. So that is the code. If you guys want to figure out what the heck's going on with launch check, feel free to. It ran fine on Cygwin because I actually wrote the code on Windows, which I know is bad to write Linux code on Windows, but it's what I did. I was on a laptop that I didn't have dual booted. I was on a Surface actually. And anyways, I wrote it and tested it in Cygwin, and then when I went to deploy it in Ubuntu, I had issues. So it's on GitHub. If you want to figure out what the heck those issues are and fix them, feel free to. I don't really care because no buzzer works fine, and I actually decided the buzzer's probably kind of annoying anyways. Not to say that I wouldn't like not having it boot loop, and I mean boot loop basically, reboot loop the network equipment. That part's nice, and then the other part that's nice is emailing. So I like 2 out of the 3 features I added to launch check, and then I retroactively decided I didn't like one of them. But anyways, I may even go back to troubleshooting it at some point, but for now I don't really care and want to move on to other projects. And then here's just the code deployed. It's in my little Ubuntu environment here. And yes, I know I'm not running this Ubuntu environment. Deal with it. It's because it runs a CloudPrint server, and CloudPrint needs Chrome. Except CloudPrint's dying, so it won't be running a CloudPrint server for much longer, and then maybe I can go to a headless environment. Anyways, that's all. Just figured I would show it to you. You should probably use a cron job to just schedule it to automatically run this script at power up or something. I'm pretty sure you can do that with cron. If not, you can... I actually haven't bothered to do that. I intend to do that. I don't know cron super well. I know the very, very basics of it. I think there's other ways to do it besides cron as well. But I'm pretty sure you can just do a cron job to have it start the script at launch. And that's probably what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's the code aspect of it. Bye.